Okay. So we are live. So if you are watching, thank you so much everyone for joining. We need for you to go and hit that share button and do a watch party because that's what we're doing right now. So you see our heads bowed down because we're in our phones trying to do that watch party, everyone.
Yep.
It's a Friday night and we are so happy that you are here with us. So come on and do that watch party and share. That's what I'm doing. I'm going to share this on my page. Yep, write a post and I'm sharing. I'll be right with everyone. Here we go. Okay, so I just shared it. How's everyone doing out there?
Very good.
Did
Doing
y'all
great.
all share?
Thank you.
I think I did.
Yeah, I shared.
Okay, I just want to make sure before we start this conversation, this intense conversation.
Sharing is caring.
Okay. Okay. Yes, sharing is caring,
Sharing
Key.
is caring.
Watch party, everyone. It's a Friday night. So, hello everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. It's the last Friday of June. Can you believe that we are 6 months? We have completed 6 months just about of the year.
Yep.
And I have this amazing panelist that's with me tonight. I have Miss Asheenia Johnson, Mr. Keith Dent, Mr. Stephen Campos, and Miss Sarah Richman. And tonight, it's a very important topic that we want to talk about. But first, I want to give a huge shout out to Everything Jersey City for hosting us and allowing us to use their platform to spread more about Black Lives Matter. For the past 4 weeks, we have been talking and having serious conversations about Black Lives Matter. And I'm just forever grateful and thankful for this beautiful partnership. So tonight, we are going to be talking about the progress made since the uptick of Black Lives Matter. Black Lives Matter has been around for many years, since 2013. And now we are 2020, and we have seen an uptick with Black Lives Matter since the killing of George Floyd. So, without further ado, I want to just take a brief moment just to give a moment of silence for George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, and so many others who have passed, as well as members that we have lost due to COVID. So let's take a moment of silence. Thank you. So tonight, I want our esteemed panelists to just introduce yourselves. I already said your names, but introduce yourselves and tell the community who you are and what you're all about and why you agreed to be on tonight's panel. And we're going to start with the ladies first. So we're going to start with Miss Sarah Richman.
Hi, I'm Sarah Richman. I work with New City Kids here in Jersey City. And I've been with New City about 16 years. For the last 8 or 10 years, I've worked with the teen program, the Teen Life Internship. And I am the Associate Director of Teen Programming. So, and I'm on this evening because I get to be on the front lines of seeing what today's young people are doing, especially in response. So excited to share what our teens have been doing and what impact this has had on them and how they're impacting the community around us. So,
thank you, Sarah. Miss Asheenia Johnson.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Asheenia Johnson, and I live here in Jersey City. I am a community activist. I'm a mentor for Big Brothers Big Sisters, a board member of the Jersey City Arts Council, as well as an advisory board member for the Jersey City Public Safety Committee. And I agreed to do this because the community is my passion, civil rights, social justice is my passion, and I've been involved in the movement since it began and before it even had a name. And this is just what I do and what I love. So I wouldn't pass up an opportunity to talk about what I love.
Thank you. Mr. Stephen Campos?
Hey everyone, thank you Angela for having me and for facilitating this discussion. So my name is Stephen Campos. I work for an agency, Hudson Partnership CMO. I've been with the agency 15 years, and that's really led me to work with kids that have the highest needs: behavioral health, mental health, substance abuse, developmental disabilities, juvenile justice involvement. Anything you can think of, this agency has exposed me to the needs and to the struggles of these kids and their families. And so I really jumped into the role as community resource director at the agency and took it up a notch with my leader. Everyone knows my CEO, Robin Gorman. You know, we just love the component of working with the community. So we've taken the advocacy piece as well, not only providing the service to the kids, but being very present in the community, being present in Jersey City, and being very loud about the needs and the trends that we're seeing. Because we really feel strongly about breaking the cycles and really making those policy changes. So that's what brings me today. That's what gets me active with so many people in Jersey City for so many years. And it's exciting work. It's exhausting work, but we're here for it.
Thank you. And last but not least, Mr. Keith Dent?
Well, it's great to be here. Thank you, Angela, for inviting me on this panel. As Angela said, my name is Keith Dent, and I am initially the regional director for Rising Tide Capital. And so we're a nonprofit organization that helps individuals achieve their dreams through entrepreneurship. And so my office is out of Essex County, but we handle Essex, Hudson County, Union County, and with Rising Tide in its 15th year in Jersey City, where it primarily started, we've seen a lot of people achieve their dreams, but we also deal with I guess you would say, marginalized individuals who primarily probably had roadblocks and obstacles that have been thrown their way, trying to start their business, and we have provided a lifeline for them. And then I'm also the host of a program called Black Men Speak. It's a Facebook Live show that gives Black men the opportunity to let people know that they are in the communities and they are there for their families, making a difference, and not just what you may see in the media. And so it's great to be here. And then I also do relationship coaching, and the things that we are talking about with the Black Lives Matter movement, in essence, is in essence about relationships, people understanding one another, showing empathy to one another. We can be different, but we are in essence all one. So it's great to be here tonight.
Well, thank you. And for those who don't know me, my name is Angela V. McKnight. I am the Assemblywoman. I serve the 31st District, that's Bayonne and parts of Jersey City. I'm also the founder and CEO of Angela Cares, that's based here in Jersey City. And I have a plethora of other hats that I wear. So you could just Google me and you can see the other things that I do. So I won't bore you with all that. So and speaking with everything Jersey City, I wanted to have a panel tonight to talk about actions that have been taken place since Black Lives Matter movement has increased, right? There are many times where you have meetings and you have discussions and you hear people talk about, we should do this, we should do that, this is what they need to do. But there's not a lot of conversations about what is actually happening, what has actually transpired. So the first question that I want the panelists to hear their thoughts about is the Quaker Oats Aunt Jemima, Uncle Ben's, Mrs. Butterworth's, and Cream of Wheat. So about a year ago, Doug Melville, he works at PepsiCo in TBWA, North America, and he went online and he purchased a lot of the racial products that were affiliated with Aunt Jemima. And he went to the table and he said, listen, we need to begin to change the culture. We need our brand to respond to racial injustices. We need to remove racial stereotypes. Now, they were working on this about a year ago, but since Black Lives Matter has an uptick, it came out and they announced that they are removing, such as Uncle Ben's, they're removing, and Mrs. Butterworth, right, and Cream of Wheat. So I did some research, and Aunt Jemima started back in 1889. Uncle Ben started in 1943. Mrs. Butterworth, 1961. And then I also did research on Cream of Wheat, 1893. We are in 2020, and a year ago was 2019. What are your thoughts that now they're being removed? And I have a second part. Since this was done in silence a year ago, but now we know about it, do you feel that the public should have known last year that this is what they were thinking and this is what they were working on, or it was fine the way how they did it? I know I just threw a lot at you. I will repeat if you need me to, but I want to hear your thoughts. So let's start with Asheenia. Asheenia,
I know you're going to start with
the public wants to hear.
So it's a good step, right? But I'm not impressed. And the reason why I say that I'm not impressed is because I always wonder, when companies make forward-facing changes, are they doing it for the optics of it, or are they actually making internal changes? Because you can change the front face of your company to the public, but if you're not checking to make sure, for instance, with the Black Lives Matter movement, if I can still look at your board, still look at your executive line and see that there's a racial disparity there, then you just did what you did to appease the public and to appear like you're doing something. And so I would want to know what is happening internally with their companies. What kind of conversations have they had with the Black employees in their companies? And if they don't have Black employees to have a conversation with, well, there's a start. So, it's a great step, but it's not always impressive to me because I want to know what is going on, internally.
Okay. Jump on in, Stephen.
Yeah, no, I agree completely with Asheenia. I think that, Black Lives Matter put a lot of organizations on the spot, right, at the moment. And they felt that they needed to make some knee-jerk decisions, right? Like, hey, let's come out and let's jump on the bandwagon and let's make this happen. And although the sentiment might be, well placed, maybe, because Asheenia's right, sometimes it might be for optics and just to jump on the bandwagon. But even if their sentiment was right, they really got to take some time and look at an assessment of their organization before they jump on that bandwagon, because it can end up worse, right? Because if they make a decision and people start looking into their company, like Asheenia just said, and you'll see some things that they're really not ready to confront. So, I would prefer that organizations take their time, reassess, and then really tell the public that they're going to look at the changes that they're going to make that are going to impact the company as a whole, and really change up the messaging around how they put out their products. So people need sometimes, and especially in this country, we tend to jump on some bandwagons and really try to go full forward. And what I've loved about this movement is that those of us that have been fighting for issues that involve Black communities and residents, we were there to call them out, right? So as soon as they started doing this stuff, we were like, wait a minute, let's look at your track record and let's make sure that you come correct. So I don't think that they're being given too much slack, and I think they shouldn't be given slack. So I think we just got to stay on top of these companies, and we're seeing, the NFL jumping on board. We're seeing statues being brought up on discussion. And so I think those are good steps. But for those of us that are active in this movement, we're going to be on top of these companies to make sure that it's meaningful.
Okay. And Keith, what do you have? How do you feel about this?
I agree, but I guess I want to take a kind of different stance. Is that, well, one is, were they proactive in doing it? I don't remember what came first, the chicken or the egg. Did we go to them, or did they? I mean, yes, that gentleman, he did bring it to the forefront. But we, consumers, if we look at consumers are the one buying these products. And so, we, none of the, these changes we are aware of, but are we still buying the products? So then we need to also, because one of the things that makes a difference is the dollar bill. So if we're still buying the products, even though they're going to say they're going to make the changes, I'm sure they're still making the money because people are still buying the products. So we have to take it a step further and say, and hold maybe our grocery stores accountable. You should not. Why are you stocking these products? Mm-hmm. These products are racially insensitive. So that it's a good win. But now, okay, so we take it further with the movement and say, oh, hey, bodega down the street, you should no longer stock this because it is a racially insensitive. And I think that's what some of the things that we need to do.
So when we looked at the year, like Aunt Mama, 1889, and now we're in 2020, and then you think of diversity and inclusion. Were they listening to their employees, or were there not enough employees at the table to bring this up? Because that's a long stretch. And they have changed how Aunt Jemima looked, right? If you look at the old pancake box. Mm-hmm. But is it enough, right? Like 1889 to 2020, like I'm still like flabbergasted by the dates. Mm-hmm. I'm happy that, like, Asheenia, like everyone said, that they are making the change. But I wish last year, I wish I would have known, because they were working in silence. I wish because maybe we could have helped, right? And that would have been more of a proactive versus some people saying that is a reactive. Right?
Yeah, I mean, it just goes to show how much, we see this in city government, we see this in companies, we see how much attention they weren't giving this, and that's why this moment is so big, because it's shining the light on what everyone is doing. So, I'm sure there are companies out there that we can really lift up that have always been considerate about the diversity, about how they lift up the Black community, how they give back. They've been at it. But right now, this moment, really put the light on everyone else that was just laying back with how things were status quo. Like, hey, this has been our image for hundreds of years. Why would we change it? And they weren't questioning, because they didn't have either that push, or they didn't have that diversity in their ranks.
Yeah, I want to piggyback on that, because both of us know, Angela, as being entrepreneurs, and Asheenia as well, that we look at our brand. So this is what been our brand for 18 some since 18 some. So if we to make those changes, we're going to look at, well, what does that mean for our expenses? So they probably, what they looked at is strictly dollars and cents. Mm-hmm. And there were, and I don't know for sure, but we could probably do some more research based on the culture of the company. They didn't have enough, there weren't enough people that was going to affect the bottom line. So they said, well, they looked at it, well, those, the expenses that we may lose, let's say we lose employees because they no longer like the culture, wasn't going to be great enough for them to make the changes that they want to make. But now they feel the pressure of, okay, we're going to lose money, because if we don't make these changes, people are not going to buy our products anymore. And so really it's just all about bottom line. They see their expenses, or the revenues that they projected are not going to be the same. So therefore, if they don't make the changes now, or being a good corporate citizen, they won't be able to maintain their profits later.
Gotcha.
Speaking of revenues, the other thing is, these companies, like, going back to the 1800s, right? that have profited for decades off of these brands that have their racially insensitive based brands, I think that they also should strongly consider, calculating the profits that they've made all this time and contributing to organizations like a Rising Tide towards Black owned businesses, because you've used our images and likenesses to make a profit. And now you're finally acknowledging that it's been offensive, and it didn't just become offensive in 2020. It's always been. And so I think, a real way to put, your money where your mouth is and actions behind your words is to say, you know what, because we have, as a business, have profited off of this image that is offensive to the Black community, we are now going to give back and share in the profits that we have earned, as an olive branch to healing.
Gotcha. And Sarah, I see you shaking your head, and your company, you employ,
yes,
right?
Yes.
And you employ high school children,
yes,
right, to help younger children to excel. So listening to what Asheenia just said about putting your money where your mouth is, I know New City kids will love to get some of that money.
Listening to all of these things, and I'm like, yes, because I feel like, I mean, I agree with Asheenia that, I really think it's knee-jerk reaction. It's my hope and prayer that we finally reach that tipping point where enough people are finally realizing this isn't okay. And they're finally going, okay, we recognize we've got to make a change. And I think I agree with, let's hold them to the fire. Let's keep advocating. Let's keep holding them accountable to that. But I mean, I love Keith's point to, we've got to vote with our dollars. We've got to put our money where our mouth is. And I think that's the key. And Asheenia, I think that's a great idea to, that goes beyond the platitudes, because we've seen so many of the companies, oh, we're going to make the changes. Oh, we're going to make a donation, but let's tie it and let's make the statement. This is tied to, we recognize that this is something that we've profited off of. And so this is why. It's not just, oh, we feel bad in the moment and we want to do our part, probably because of a knee-jerk reaction or wanting to put a good face on it or not wanting to lose the bottom line. But I think that, Asheenia, what you've said is extremely critical. You've got to be able to say, I've made a mistake. Now, I mean, my heart is, working with teenagers, you give them chance after chance after chance because you want to see them grow. And it's my hope and prayer that the internal work is starting, that it's not just, and again, Asheenia, I love your point to, let me look at your board, let me look at your employees. Are you making those internal changes to reflect a change in heart? Because I am a Christian, and scripture just happens in my life all the time. And the Bible says, out of the overflow of your heart, your mouth speaks. And I think that out of the overflow of what you're doing internally, that's going to show in your board. That's going to show in your employees. That's going to show how you're trying to make those olive branch gestures, for sure. So yes, I'm amening all of it.
Well, thank you. So Stephen, you alluded to my second question in reference to statues. So since the Black Lives Movement has uptick, right? Because again, it's been around for many years. Many protesters are going around the world, including Europe, and they are either defacing or toppling, or the city itself, they're removing statues. So such as Birmingham, we have protesters, they went and they toppled the Confederate Navy captain. In Boston, there were protesters who removed the head of Christopher Columbus. Florida, the city removed the bronze honoring the Confederacy. And I see Georgia, Indianapolis, Kentucky, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, Tennessee, Virginia, and in Europe, you have Belgium and England. What are your take on this? I want to hear.
Take them down. Take them down. Again, this moment is monumental. Those of us that have been reading up, right, on the history of this country, we know that the stories and the history was told by those that colonized and those that enslaved, and the history was told by them. And then these statues were erected by those that really lifted up that history, that and really didn't care about those that the casualties of that, right? So as we started reading up and really understanding, we've had a couple of decades where people have started really understanding the history of these figures, right? And so at this moment, right, this tipping point moment where everyone was really, with police brutality really just tipping everyone over on this system of oppression, they started saying, we don't need these figures in our cities. Like, they don't represent us. They don't tell our story. And if we're going, and they were erected during a time and a different generation where we didn't understand our stories. So I think it's amazing. I take them down, rewrite. Let's tell the stories from a neutral place that really understands and lifts up people that have been consistently fighting against oppression. Let's talk about abolitionists through our history that were abolitionists during really difficult times. Let's talk about entrepreneurs that started industry for Black community in times that was really impossible. There are people that we can celebrate. We just got to look for them and really, and then our communities can, stand around and really feel proud. So I say, take them down.
Keith, I see you have something to say, Keith. I saw your face.
It's interesting because I look at it where there was either people just all of a sudden woke up and realized that, oh, these statues are oppressive, or we didn't do a good job. I'm an elder statesman, of not telling our kids what the statues were, because in case in point, there was, I think, Teddy Roosevelt, the statue at the museum in New York. How many countless times have people gone by the statue and not have commented or been in awe or outraged about what the statues represented? So I'm glad that they're being reevaluated, and I do believe, and I do agree with Stephen that there's a lot of people that we can replace with the statue. So people shouldn't be that upset. We have the women's movement, we have the LGBTQ movement, where there are freedom fighters that we can erect in their place. But to me, these are small wins, and these are I feel we need to go deeper in the movement now to really get the changes. And I'll probably address it later. I'm sure that will be addressed later, but we have to start going deeper now. This is great. These are good photo ops that you can put on TV, but we need to with some deeper issues.
Okay, Asheenia.
I think I saw a conversation on social media that kind of summed it up best. The person asked somebody that was, going back and forth about Columbus statues, and the person said, if somebody kidnapped and murdered your loved one, where exactly would you want the monument to that individual to be placed? And it was like, okay. The other person that was in the conversation didn't comment back, and I don't think that the statues that are in museums should be removed, because then I think that we're erasing a part of history, and that story needs to be told. So those things that are in museums, along with the Confederate flag, should be there, and the true story should be told. But I don't want to go into a park and see a statue of a Confederate general, not, when I know the history of that person. And, this is striking up a lot of emotions in communities who, have historical, quote unquote, leaders that they've loved and celebrated for decades. And some of them do know the true story of the leader, and some of them don't. And so this is a time of, great emotion for different cultures, because they're going to have to confront the ugly past of some of these individuals. And I just don't think that general public places are the place where we display these types of, statues. If they're in a museum, there's an educational component to that, that's fine. But parks and, street plazas and, city and county and state buildings, absolutely not. I don't want to see those statues there any more than I want to see the Confederate flag there.
Well, I want to say that it's like miseducation of our people. Many children many of us, we don't know the full story of all of these different monuments, right? Of the people, because a
Mhm.
lot of it is not taught in school,
Mhm.
right? Like,
That's true.
Stephen, you mentioned, there are many other people that we can create statues for,
Mhm.
but they're not, our education is not taught in school, like that Black education, like Madam CJ Walker, right? She was the first Black woman millionaire, man-made, right? She made her own, self-made, but we're not taught her about her in school, right? I never read a book about her. I just heard that she was a millionaire, right? A self-made millionaire. So I, as an adult, have to go on and research who she is. But I should have learned that in school, because we should have millions of statues of her, because
Mhm.
she did all. It doesn't even matter what her skin color is. It's just what she did, and so many people can look up at her. And Sarah, like, you have children that go to New City Kids, right? And they fill out these applications to go to college, and you have kids that are working there. It would be great that they are learning those things, and not just about Christopher Columbus.
Well, that's the thing, is I know I'm on my own personal journey as far as like I'm not originally from the East Coast, so I have to relearn a lot of the history that I was taught. And so I know that that's a personal journey that I'm on. But I'm so excited that a lot of the stuff that we're doing with our kids, specifically at the after school centers. So our teens work at the after school centers, and we're focusing this year on great inventors for their extra credit sessions. And so, and this is the latest we've had the last few years, where we've been trying to focus on, let's show you some of your heroes. Let's show you a broader description of history. Let's show you what you've been missing in a lot of the books that even you've been getting here in Jersey City. I know like the books I was learning from growing up in the Midwest, it's very different now than it is back then. But I know that, I'm on my own personal journey to make sure that I'm learning as much as I can. And, any good teacher is going to learn and then pass on, learn and then pass on to the kids. So that's something that I know that we're focusing on, to try and make sure that we are showing them the broader scope of history. We are giving them the heroes that look like them. And that's what I'm so excited about. So
Well,
Yeah.
thank you. So it leads to the next question. What are some other actions that you all have seen since the uptick with the Black Lives Matter movement? We talked about the Aunt Mama, removal of those. We talked about statues. But what else have you guys seen? And let's start with Keith. Have you seen anything else since this has occurred?
Well, I think one of the things that I have seen is I think they're slowly tackling the justice system in regards to how we're being handled in the court system. People are funding the bail project or things of that nature, and I think that's probably going to be the next one that I mean, I know they have bail reform and all that, but there's still some major things that we need to tackle there, because it's almost part and parcel of the way we're being treated by police. Not only are we getting killed by the police, but also jailed in an alarming rate, and we need to look at that, because and that's going to be very tough, because then it also looks at the judges, which are they're voted in, so they have carte blanche control to do whatever they want. But if we wanted to dig deep and see how some of the judges deal with African American or people of color, I'm sure there'll be some reckoning that will need to be handled.
Mhm.
So I think that's what they kind of started with, kind of the bail projects and things of that nature, but they'll have to really think about that.
Okay. Asheenia, have you seen anything else?
Um, Two of the biggest things for me that I can say are wow moments for me is the national look now at use of force in police departments across this country. And it's not just the conversation of should the officer have done that or was he not allowed to do that. People are now digging in like, these policies need to be changed, because the narrative of it was justified and they were allowed to do it, now you have to tackle the fact that they were allowed to do it and change those rules. So I am very appreciative that there is a national look from people of all races and cultures in regards to use of force and the unequal application of the use of force. The other thing that I am proud to see is white citizens, residents, allies really taking a long, hard look at what it is to be a white person, what it is to have white privilege, and to not feel guilty or ashamed, but to now seek to learn more and be a better person because of it. And, you know, that to me is just, I've never seen it on this scale. You know, growing up, I, you know, have family members, you know, in the movement, and I've been in the movement since I was a teenager. I've never seen this openness to really want to have this conversation on a national scale, and for people to be willing to get uncomfortable, because these are not comfortable conversations by any means, especially, you know, when I think about, you know, somebody like the gentleman Loki Mulholland, who did the documentary An Uncomfortable Truth. This man went in search of, you know, the history of systemic and institutionalized racism and discovered a very, very, very close connection between his family and those roots. And that's disturbing. And, you know, to be able to say, I'm not going to bury this and cover it up and not let it see the light of day, and to instead say, I'm going to share this with the world and be better for it, that's a huge step towards progress.
Thank you. Sarah?
I mean, I know, I echo Asheenia with the national conversation. That to me has been really exciting for sure. But I know my heart is always on personal and community. And so what can I do myself? And like I said, I mean, I'm seeing our kids affect our community. And I got to go down to the rally that they held at Berry Lane a few weeks back. And our kids put together over the weekend a step, you know, guided by one of our staff members, and performed, you know, and exercising, and the words that are coming out of their mouth, and that they're talking about, you know, they can't go into stores. They can't without being watched. They can't, you know, I'm still, and then they're referencing like, I am Ahmaud Arbery, I am Breonna Taylor, like, and I look at them, and these are my kids, and, you know, especially this class that just graduated, many of them, I've known them since they were kids in our program. So they have been after school center students. So I've known them for 6, 7, 8 years. And these are my kids, you know, and watching them grow up and now go on to take on the world. And 100% of our program, of our graduates this year, are going on to college and have been accepted to college. And that to me is, I'm bound and determined to make sure that I am working locally. And I would echo that there's this openness for the conversation. I'm in the process of having these hard conversations with other white, or I'm with a group of white women that we're having these conversations, because I need to know what it looks like to address white privilege, to address white supremacy, living where I live, working where I work, doing what I do with the young people that I do. And I mean, it's something that I am looking at every single day in my life. And I think that's important for us to do that internal work ourselves, and then empower our community in the best way we can. You know, I'm using what I have in my own arsenal to be able to empower my young people, to empower my kids. That then, like, I can't change the world. I'm not a national figure. I can't impact the national conversation. I can impact the 22 seniors that were in our program this year. I can speak into the 8 or 10 girls that I meet with monthly, that I see day to day at our after school center program. These are the ones that I can impact. And it's a ripple effect, but I'm going to focus on what I can do there. And I mean, it seems small, but I know that that's what I can do. And that's a tangible, actionable step that I can impact those lives and empower them so that they can go impact as well.
You're absolutely correct, Sarah. The 30 people that you are able to impact, it is a ripple effect. And if we all do our share, this world will be a much better place. Stephen,
That's
what
huge.
have you been seeing? What else have you
Yeah,
seen?
yeah. What Sarah just mentioned is a lot of what I've been seeing is people really reflecting and looking at what the issues are, and that is impactful. So like for all the Sarahs across the country, right, and for all of us that have access to young people or our families, we're pushing this discussion. I'm confident because this does feel like a monumental moment. I'm confident that it is going to push the dial on progress. And then on the tangible changes, like Asheenia mentioned, the spotlight on police brutality. And it is scary. I will say that it does put certain groups in a defense mode. And I talked about this with a couple of people already. For those of us that are active in pushing this discussion, is reminiscent of what we saw in our history around the civil rights movement, right? That when you start to shake up the bubbles that people live in, they get angry. They're like, "Why? What are you talking about? Like the police have always been my friends and my family. How dare you attack them? How dare you talk about defunding them? Who are you? You're a socialist." And the anger that you're hit with is scary because I feel like that space that they create creates an opportunity for those that are really on the fringes to be violent. And I've noticed that come up. And that's good and bad because it's an indication that we're really pressing buttons that are going to move us forward. And when you start seeing people really rattle like that, it's because we are really truly shaking up their reality, and rightly so because of what we talked about with the statues. So we're gonna put a microscope under these systems. For myself, I've been involved in reform work with the juvenile justice system, and the examples that Keith gave, we've been doing that in the juvenile world. We've been doing assessment tools that really take away bias from judges and probation and officers. That reduces the amount of kids in the juvenile justice system. We've looked at conditions of kids in the system. How can we keep them in the community without having to, keep them in detention unnecessarily? That's brought down the numbers of kids in detention. So there is innovative work that was happening, and with this moment, we're looking to highlight it. We're looking to really highlight the importance of civilian review boards. We're looking to really highlight the importance of alternatives and more prevention, social services and prevention programs, economic opportunities. So, I think all of us on this call, we've touched each of those avenues and sectors of the community. And now that everyone is like, wait a minute, Black Lives Matter, we're like, yeah, that's what we've been working on. We've been really working to address this equity issue. And welcome to the club, guys. Like, let's get going now. So I think for those of us that are involved in this work, it's a moment where we're recruiting and we're getting allies. Like Asheenia mentioned, we're seeing allies from all sectors really paying attention, and we're telling them, hey, we need you to show up because as a whole community, we're going to be pressing this issue and we're going to look for really systemic changes. And I'm looking for that. As the months go by, we're going to be looking at the dial and see how far we got. And I really hope we get far because we know that their attention starts to, go in different directions. And we're trying to really keep the pressure on. So I hope we can move it forward.
Yes, we have to continue the Dow. One of the things
So
that
can I add something to that? The amazing thing is that this probably would not have occurred if we didn't have COVID.
Yes, I agree with
Wow.
you.
Which we never admit. And so it took a pandemic of epic proportions to get people to see what we've been seeing forever. So, because it's not like people weren't shot or killed by the police last year or even in February, January, but because people had to, and I would say breathe, because I think people also had to breathe and see and witness that they were like, oh, wait, there are some injustices going on. There are actually Black people getting killed by the police. Like, what? Because I think most of the time we're on our own treadmills, and we just like go on and we may catch it and say, oh well, I couldn't do anything, I got to get up for work tomorrow. And so people were home, they didn't have anything to do, and they needed an outlet to speak out and voice frustrations, not just because of COVID, because of humanity. They had the ability to do it.
Yeah, and I agree with you, Keith. I do.
Yeah.
I agree with you. The pandemic has allowed us to like take a pause, and then the things that have been happening, they're exposed.
Yeah.
And,
yeah. I mean,
mhm.
no, I would add, because it was such an intense couple of months, because COVID as well highlighted the disparities around our healthcare system and our health in our communities. So we saw brown and black communities being hit double hard, right? So we were going through months of just infection rates and comorbidity issues. And then, everyone is locked in at home. And then you got hit with this horrific video of the George Floyd murder. It was just a perfect storm of pain that just really blew up this country in awareness.
Mm-hmm. And I've also seen, the Karens, right? That's the Karens.
Right.
I want to say it again.
I feel bad for people named Karen now.
Her college
So I've been
is really awesome. Her name is Karen, and she's fabulous.
Well, we've been seeing more of the Karens being exposed, especially like in the Black Twitter world, right? So the young lady who she was driving, I believe, African American, cut her off, and she went on to Instagram, or she went somewhere on live, and she was talking bad about Black people, and people found her address where she worked at, and they started like tweeting Party City. I believe she worked at Party City.
Union City, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, and she got fired. There's been so many of them, as well as the Karens, that the world is like, no, enough is enough. Like, you cannot do this. You can't without repercussions.
And I think what is happening now that hasn't really happened on this scale before is the target of the individuals who make the decisions. For instance, the mayor in the city where Breonna Taylor was killed, they've been on that mayor's block every night, like 100 cars, they're beeping their horns, they have signs. And so it's more than, being at City Hall, or if, you're in New Jersey going to Trenton. Like, when you start going to the individuals that make decisions and disrupting in their neighborhood, you got their neighbors looking at them crazy, like, look, we can't sleep, there's 100 cars outside, can you do something? It really kind of puts the pressure on them to have something to say and have an action, because now their personal world is being disrupted. And I think in the past, what has made people very comfortable is the protest has stayed over there. So, they're just downtown, or they're just at the Capitol, or they're just at the site of where the person got killed. But now they're starting to go to mayors and legislators and the chief's office and a police officer, like whoever is responsible and whoever can make a change, they're going to that individual and holding them personally accountable. And so when you can't walk out your house without being confronted, not by the reporters, but by, angry residents who are like, you have to do something about this, it becomes very real. And you're forced to either, make a decision, and that decision is you're not going to do anything and you live with the consequences of that, or you say, you know what, you all are right, and I'm going to make a change. But now it's become very personal and holding people accountable.
I think it circles all the way back to what Keith was saying earlier about the bottom line. Government officials, it's finally affecting their bottom line, whether it's their personal, comfort, as far as, people outside protesting, different things like that. But I think, I think you're right that we are in this perfect storm of, we finally realized as individuals, we have power. We have this ability to make changes. And I think for so long we've believed the lie that oh, one person can't do anything. Oh, one person can't make a change. And, oh, the government's going to do what the government's going to do. And, oh, my vote won't matter. And I think we have to really understand our individual personal responsibility to make those changes where we see the things to make changes. You know, if I see somebody that's doing something that is an injustice, I need to speak up against it. I need to make sure I'm standing in the gap there. And I think, Keith, I think you're right that here we are sitting at home, stuck in our houses, powerless. And then we're finally realizing, wait, I'm not as powerless as I'm being told I am. I do have power. And especially now that we have, the difference now between, even the civil rights movement, where sure, there were pictures and there were videos, but it wasn't as widespread. We didn't have this much access to see the injustices in front of our face. And now, and it was so easy at the time to put our heads in the sand. And I mean, even up until prior to COVID, you're you're right. You're exactly right. It was easy to be on our own treadmill, stick our heads in the sand. Oh, I got to do what I got to do. But now we realize, okay, we're stuck here, but I haven't given up my power. My power just needs to be used for the community versus just for myself. And I think that's huge, that we affect the bottom line in every way, whether it's, dollars with companies that we're supporting, votes for the government officials that we put into place, issues that we want to see changed, making sure we're signing petitions, that we're getting behind the things that we really care about.
Absolutely. So now I want to switch gears to talk about what have you done personally in reference to changing the way you think or doing something, using your voice, using your platform. And I want to start with Keith, because Keith has this beautiful show, When Black Men Speak. He's using his platform and he's doing more and more about that. And Keith, I just want you to let everyone know what is it all about and why you decided to do it. And it's just the perfect timing because of the Black Lives Matter movement enhancement.
Well, it's funny, and I'm sure I may get beaten up for it, but what I had noticed is that initially, Black girls rock. They were connected. They were empowered. We are predominantly women at Rising Tide Capital, and the things that we do to support women that are starting businesses. So women were starting business at an alarming rate, probably for a couple of reasons. One, because they, out of necessity, needed to, because because maybe there wasn't a man in the household due to whatever reasons, but they needed a way to support their family, and they've been doing that forever. So, I mean, look, Moses, who's Underground Railroad, was by a woman. So it's always been prevalent in our communities. But there was no place for Black men to either talk about their fears or talk about what they're doing in the community. We're out there, but just not having the opportunity to be visible. So I felt this would be a great way to showcase that. So we can start to collectively unite or reach out to someone that may be doing something. For example, I had a gentleman on last week that talked about real estate development and what the tricks that he did in order to bring personal wealth to his family. So, and it sounded pretty simple, risky, but some of the things that we could do, not out of the realm that could be done collectively if we come together. So we should know, everyone in the communities should know about these things. And that's why I started the show. And it's really been transformative for not only for the Black people or Black men in general, but just for the community.
Well, thank you. Asheenia? You're still on mute.
Sorry, there were fireworks going on. So, I'm involved in regards to, speaking at events and, and working on conversations with people in law enforcement, gathering research information. But something that I had been working on and I've become more intentional with is I started last year this mission to replace a product that I purchase on a regular basis with a Black owned product. And with the list more and more coming out of different Black owned businesses, particularly in Jersey City and in the New Jersey area, I've started to be more intentional with that, in that I used to wait until I was dissatisfied with my current product to replace it with the Black product. And so I've been much more intentional in saying, I'm not going to wait till I'm unhappy. I can still buy this product sometimes, but I'm going to support a Black business first, primarily. And if there's, ever a time when this item runs out of, is out of stock with the Black business, then, I'll go back to where I was before. But I see the need now more than ever to strengthen our Black businesses, because they were hit so hard during COVID, particularly small businesses, and they are going to be the last to be helped. And, people can, debate this all they want, but, we can see this in what already happened with the federal funds that were out in the businesses that didn't receive, and information that is not trickling down to Black businesses. So I have been much more intentional with replacing products and services with those that come from business owners that are Black.
Okay. Sarah?
Like I referenced earlier, like personally, I'm just doing a lot of learning. When the George Floyd murder happened, and a friend of mine had posted about the Ahmaud Arbery murder as well. And I had looked into that. I was actually visiting family out of town at the time. And so I did some research into that, simply because I enjoy running. So to hear about a young man who was out running, being murdered, really struck me. And I realized how much, I've seen the news, and but I realized how little I knew. And so I have been on a personal journey myself, just like I said, have gotten into a book group surrounding white fragility, the book that came out a few years ago. And so just exploring that. But additionally, I know that my calling at New City is to empower our young people. And so, like we just had our graduation celebration last week at Berry Lane, and it was so exciting to be able to send them off equipped and ready for college. But I think even more so, I think I've operated at New City in a way where I've kind of done, I've been there for so long that I've done the things that we're supposed to do. And yes, and they've all been great, and they're doing great things, but I'm going, okay, I need to go deeper. I need to learn more. The way our program is set up, as the teens do well, they get promoted within leadership. So, there are teens that are working at the after school center, but then there are teens that are coaching their peers. There are then teens so they go from a regular teen life intern to an assistant team leader to a team leader. And a team leader is typically, almost a second adult walking around at our center, knowing how everything works, getting that system ready to go. And so I love working with our leadership team, but making sure that they are empowered, learning leadership strategies, making sure that they are equipped so that when they're going off to further their education, so that when they go and impact the world, they have all the tools at their fingertips that they need. So I know that's, personally myself have been doing a lot more learning and listening. I was really amazed and blessed to be on a call. We've been doing a lot of our programming still through Zoom. I was really glad that we were able to continue some of our things, able to work with the teens and the kids through Zoom throughout the end of the school year. And one of our staff members held a listening session shortly after the George Floyd murder. And, as a white woman, my job is to not speak in those moments. My job is to listen. My job is to hear the pain. My job is to be an ally. And so I was so thankful to be able to be included in that call and hear our teens speak, and be a sounding board for them, be a support system for them. So I know that we're doing direct things with our teens to encourage them to speak up, to be empowered. One of the first rallies that was held, one of our alumni got to read the statement from one of the councilwomen, and it was such a great moment to see one of my girls up there representing, you know, and I was so proud of her for using her voice. And so I think that's, you know, personally, I know I need to make the changes of learning and listening, and then using what I have as far as power to then empower my young people.
Wow, thank you. Stephen? Wow, beautiful.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's been a bunch of things happening that I've been active in. You know, there's been about like 3 or 4 really, you know, things I can categorize. One has been mobilizing with all of my community partners on the demands for change. We needed to be immediate with those demands. So you know, partnering with the Jersey City Anti-Violence Coalition movement, marching on City Hall, supporting our partners to make sure the public is aware of the needed change that has to happen. So that's been a day-to-day, you know, move. Second, you know, I sit on a lot of committees involved in the kind of work that I mentioned before, in juvenile justice work and reform, and, you know, am doubling down on the attention for the need for more resources and prevention, and also looping in those youth leaders that you guys have all been mentioning. Really making an intentional effort to bring them into my spaces where decisions are made in those committees that we have representatives from many social services and municipal and county government. I've been inviting them to come into those spaces intentionally because we need those voices in there. You know, third is a work that, you know, most of us on this call have been active with the Amend the 13th movement. You know, we've been talking about the origins, right? We talked about the statues, we talked about the brands, you know, and slavery, you know, is still in that Constitution. So I know it's work that's been happening for over a year. Angela, thanks to you for being one of the co-sponsors on that bill.
Actually, I am the prime sponsor.
Oh, excuse me, the prime sponsor. Absolutely. So definitely many thanks for that work, because it's kind of like what we were talking about. It's work that we had, you know, going on, and then this awareness exploded, and we're telling people right now that New Jersey has an opportunity to really fix, you know, a wrong that we have in our Constitution, and let's get rid of that slavery clause. We don't need it in there, and let's start creating a system based on treating people like humans. So that avenue, the advocacy on the ground, getting our youth voices heard and infuse resources. I think, you know, it's been an intense couple of months, because that's all, you know, a tremendous, and then throw COVID in there, right? So it's been an intense couple of months and weeks, but it's necessary. And those are kind of like the key areas, among other projects that are happening on the ground to unify the community. But that's what's really been keeping me busy, and I've met new people. Believe it or not, you know, we thought we knew everyone, right? You know, so all of us on this call, you know, I just met Keith today. Hey, Sarah. But we've met some new activists. I didn't know Nevin Perkins before this. I didn't know Adriana before this. I didn't know some activists in the North Hudson area that stepped up before this, and so it's really helped mobilize and energize a lot of what we do. So
yes, you know, and as far as the Amendment 13, just looking at that one, there's so many moving parts and so many, you know, people that have come on board to help make sure that we can get that piece of, you know, legislation move forward to remove slavery from the jail. So yes, I'm the prime sponsor, but we need the Steves. We need the Asheenas, we need the Dennises, we need the Keys and the Sarahs and everyone else, because it takes all of us, right? So I love the fact that you are where you have been. We've been working for years together, Stephen, right?
Yep, over 10 years.
But it just shows when you work together, what you can do, right? And Keith, I work with Keith, I work with Asheenia, and Sarah, I haven't personally worked with you, but I work with you know, your teams at New City Kids. But when we work together, especially now, this Black Lives Matter, we need everyone, right? It doesn't matter your skin color, we need everyone at the table, because until Black Lives Matter, all lives will matter, right? We need to make sure that when we say, we shouldn't even have to say that, right? But right now we have to say Black Lives Matter. And there's times where you argue, you get into a heated conversation. Well, all lives matter. Yes, we do know. And I'm not negating that your life doesn't matter. But I know Black lives, looking at what's been going on, our life doesn't matter because we are the ones who are dying, right? By the numbers. You cannot move the numbers. You see the numbers. So two of the things that I have done since the enhancement of Black Lives Matter, I've been reading more Black books. I have one, my daughter brought this one, I'll show you. This one stamped from the beginning, right? So I'm reading this one, and there are other things. Like I just bought Madam C.J. Walker. I saw the video, the movie, but I want to read the book. So I brought that book. And there's a particular store that I've been going to, and I have not liked what they have been doing inside the stores, right? Their vegetables are not good, the pricing is not good, but yet I kept going there. But now I no longer go there anymore. I will drive across town to get items that I need for my house because I don't like the way how they treat Black people. So I stopped going to that store. And, I may have to put gas in my car to go across town, but I'll be okay because I don't want to shop inside of a store that no longer, that don't value who I am and who my community is. So those are two things that I've started to do since Black Lives Matter movement has enhanced. So I want to put in a plug for Everything Jersey City. They have an awesome Black Lives Matter resource, a list of Black-owned businesses on everythingjerseycity.com. So if you go to their website, everythingjerseycity.com, you can do a search, and they have a nice resource that lists Black-owned businesses. And we are at the top of the hour, a little after the hour. This was a great conversation. And before we end, I want to go around and just, is there anything else that you want to share with everyone that's watching or everyone that will watch after the recording? And I just want to say thank you because you all were phenomenal. I took some notes listening to all of you. Right. So let's start with Sarah. Since Sarah, we ended with you when we first started.
I would echo, like I definitely, there's notes that I'm taking as well and things that I want. But I think my encouragement is so many of the young people that I work with, it's a cliche phrase, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And my heart at New City has been for years to just be that sounding board. And I know that we are focusing specifically on social emotional learning when we come back, because so many of your young people have been in situations during this COVID period that have not been great for their mental health. So I think having that heart of speaking encouragement, and Asheenia, I like you're changing one product out. I love that mentality of just do one thing, so each day look for one young person that you can speak life over. Look for one person that you can encourage. I know that there are people that I still remember in my own life who had encouraged me over the years. And I know that choosing to speak, you may see a kid do something awesome. You're like, oh, great. Well, that's awesome. They're not doing something bad, so I'm going to keep going with my life. Call out the good, because so many of our young people are not getting that. And so that's my encouragement. When you see a young person, find a young person each day that you can just speak life into. And that's going to make a difference.
That's beautiful, Sarah. Thank you. Asheenia, you're next. Awesome. I know, gonna make me cry.
I want to definitely plug Amend the 13th. Very important question coming up in November. And for those who are not familiar, please look up Amend the 13th New Jersey on Facebook. But just essentially, the 13th Amendment allows slavery in the case of it being punishment for a crime. And so we are wanting to amend that to say that slavery is abolished completely and that you cannot use as punishment for a crime enslaving someone. And so, everybody's not free until we're all free. And I just want to encourage people to, find your peace in this movement. it may not be that you can attend every protest. You may be immune compromised, you know, in this pandemic situation, you can't come out to the protests or events and things, but you may be able to do some research. You may be able to send an email. You may be able to make a post, you know, on your social media. So find what you are comfortable with doing, what works for you, what works for your family, what works for your health, and be a part, because this is something that we are going to have to do together. It took centuries for us to get into this shape, and it's not going to be gone by 2021. We've got a lot of work to do. We've got a lot of uncomfortable moments to have. We've got a lot of reading to do and researching to do, a lot of forgiving to do, a lot of changing to do. And so there is room for everybody in this work. You cannot have too many Steve Camposes. You can't have too many Angela McKnights or Keith Dents or Sarah Richards. You know, just find what works for you and do your part. No matter how small you may think it is, that one small act can, you know, spur a movement. So I encourage everybody to, you know, jump in this movement wherever you believe that you fit and to be a part of the solution, because everybody is not free until we all are free. And injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. And so this is our collective work. It's not just the responsibility of one group of people.
Well, thank you. And we can't have too many Asheenia Johnsons. All right.
That's right.
Keith, let's hear from you.
Being the relationship guy, the stuff that we're doing now, well, a couple of things is great. So we need this is going to be a long marathon, so we have to stay encouraged. We have to persevere in those things. But one of the things that we tend to overlook during these you know, the movement is that we don't look internally to our own relationships, our own families, how we're treating them. And I don't want to belabor a long story, but there was a couple weeks ago, there was a woman that had put on her Instagram that she had been assaulted, right? And I posted something that, you know, sorry that you had been through that, as she was an African-American woman. And the vitriol that she got from African-American men, some of them, that was just appalling to me. I was really kind of shocked and taken aback, because it's like, look, it was courageous that she put the story out there, and for not to be believed for the fact that she did this and automatically assume that she was lying was horrible. And so that's still going on. So in our communities, we need to start to think about that. We need to come together and say, and Asheenia mentioned it, or Sarah mentioned it about, you know, lifting up a young person. Now, how about lifting up your neighbor across the street that you probably don't even know their name, and doing those things first along with the movement. It's not just about just the movement itself. Black Lives Matter means that we also have to look at that, and we have to care about the people that are living next door.
Absolutely. Thank you, Keith. Stephen?
Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, everyone's really said it, you know, delivered a really great message. We want to keep the attention, you know, if there is a message, you know, to any of my friends and family, anyone watching, is that pay attention to where the work is needed. You can lend your voice. You can pick up a phone and ask your legislator, what are we doing about the issues around equity? How are we creating a pathway and a space for our residents to really share and speak? Because what I've seen is that, you know, in my town, some young people stood up and really voiced some issues that they were going through that other people were ignoring, that they didn't want to acknowledge. And it was a powerful moment. So I think that we, as the adults in the room, as those that have influence, we can create space. And I think Sarah gave great examples about that. And we just continue to do that. Also, you showed a book, Angela, and I wanted to share what our family did. This book right here, The Parker Inheritance, we read it as a family. It's a kid-friendly book, and it was amazing because it talked about it jumped generations. It was like a mystery book that talked about some real history of racism in a town and how it followed a generation of families and residents, and how the town had to come to terms with that history. And it's these kids that explore this mystery story. So for kids and as a family, I think it was a great read. I think my kids are 8 years old and 11, and they really jumped in, and it really opened up. It told the whole storyline around education, like we talked about during this conversation. So I would also challenge everyone to go out, and we've been seeing that the bestsellers and all the books that have been flying off the shelves now, and everyone is reading now, which is amazing as well. So I encourage people to continue to do that, because a lot of the stuff that we talked about today, sadly enough, we didn't all start learning till we were adults. I'll admit some Black Wall Street, Juneteenth, the rebellion in Haiti. I mean, like, some of these stories we just were not told, and so as adults we did that. So I would encourage, as we move forward and we're actually retelling history the way it should be, let's educate our next generation. Let's dive in, and let's move the dial.
Absolutely.
And let me just, before you go into that, Angela, quick ways to do that is listening to podcasts. So 1619 is a great one.
Yep.
Steve, I was going to say that, but I see we're here. The
podcast mode, yeah. And I know you're gonna hit me later. It's like, oh, you stole my thunder. But yeah, I mean, young people will gravitate towards that faster. So if encourage them to follow these podcasts, and then maybe it'll increase their love for reading. But follow those because there's some very good ones out there.
Yeah,
absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Keith. Because some people, they driving, or maybe they don't really want to read a lot. They can actually listen, right? So we have 2 ears, so we can actually listen as well as read, like Stephen said. So there are a few things that I need everyone to do that's watching, if you haven't done this already. Because we talk about Black Lives Matter, we talk about All Lives Matter. I need for you and your family to complete the census. The census helps the federal government give municipalities money for schools, for infrastructure, etc. You may feel that you don't want the government in your business. Government can't listen. You have to do it, because if you look at a city, say Jersey City, say there's about 250,000 people. If only 200,000 people complete the census, the money that we will get will be for 200,000 people. Yet there's 250,000 people in this city. So the city will have to use that money that's only for 200,000 people to accommodate 250,000 people. That's the simplest way I can tell you about the census. So please complete it. You can go online, census.gov 2020. You can call. There's an 800 number in multiple languages. You can also reach out. There's a bunch of community members out that are helping. It takes about 10 minutes. I did it. I'm praying everybody on this panel did it. Yep. But if you haven't done it already, please help your grandparent, help your mother, help your neighbor complete that census. Again, I have one more thing. July 7th, there's a primary, there's an election. Your vote matters. You may feel that it doesn't matter, but it matters. The people that you vote in office, they have to vote for services and projects for your municipality, for your state, for the federal. So please go out and vote. If you're not registered to vote, I need you to register to vote. So in New Jersey, it's July 7th. And this year, we're doing a lot of vote by mails. So if you need help with how to fill out a vote by mail, you can contact the city. You can contact the county board of elections, and they will help you with that. Now, November, there's another election. So I need for you to start getting people registered to vote. I don't care who you vote for. Well, I do care, but I'm just saying, I can't tell you who to vote for, but you just need to vote. November is coming. I know who I'm voting for, but I need for you, if you do not like the people that are in office today, when November comes, if they're on the ballot, vote for who you need to vote for. Do research on who's on the ballot. Do your own research. Google University, YouTube University. There's a whole lot of universities out there that you can start doing research. So please, I need for you to do that. Your vote counts. I'm telling you, your vote counts. And with that said, I just want to thank everyone for listening to us for a little over an hour. This was an engaging, powerful conversation because we talked about things that are happening and things that should be happening and things that we're all doing. And I think Sarah said it best. Just start one little thing, right? Change one little thing. Asheenia changed one of her products and I know she's happy with them. So just change one little thing and guaranteed you will make a difference. Guaranteed. So with that said, I want to thank Everything Jersey City for having us on and hosting us tonight.
Thank you.
And
thank you.
right,
Thank you.
and we look forward to seeing you soon. And please give a round of applause to our esteemed panelists, like I will. Hey. So with that said, good night. Have an awesome weekend and take care. Be blessed.
Bye, everyone.
Everyone.
Bye-bye.